Hello and welcome to Comprehension Points video Snark. If you came here because you thought that this was an audiobook, please stick around and maybe learn some reading and listening comprehension skills. I read books and discuss what went wrong and how they can possibly be fixed. I'm continuing my read through of Betrothed by Kiera Cass. Not the first video, go check out the others, links are posted below. Chapter 17. Hollis sits and watches the tourney for a while before Reed gives her the handkerchief with a note tucked inside of it. He says that it's quite hot and implies that Hollis should slip Valentina the note with the intent of Hollis giving her the handkerchief to wipe her face off. Over in the royal box, Hollis doesn't approach Valentina directly and only makes this bowing, scraping, sniveling comment to Quentin. Since it's doing nothing but feeding his ego, he likes this. His words tick her off something fierce, but she has to remind herself that this is for the greater good, that there's more at stake here than a terrible person saying terrible things to her. Quentin basically tells her, "Now run along, darling, the grown-ups are speaking." The entire thing would have been less demeaning if he had given her a condescending pat on the head. As Hollis turns to go, she almost offhandedly gives Valentina the handkerchief. As she walks away, she circles not to turn and see if Valentina saw the note. Back with her family, Whitley comforts her with the knowledge that one day they will all look back at this point in their lives. They continue to watch. After a while, a random rider comes up and all but shoves his lance into Hollis's face. Hollis is freaked out, and Scarlet tells her that it's Eaton. In her defense, he's wearing full armor with his face visor down, and the only thing she can really see are his eyes. As Hollis ties a handkerchief around his lance, she thinks that in asking for a favor from her, he's declaring in front of everybody that he views her as one of them, one of the family. As he rides out, Hollis asks Scarlet if she'd ever seen Eaton riding before. The two of them talk about how it would make the family look bad if he did poorly, but would improve the entire family's standing if he did well. And as Eaton gets ready for his own turn, Hollis can only hope that he doesn't end up badly injured, which is more important than winning. Have to agree. There's a dramatic moment as Eaton unseats his opponent. Everybody starts to cheer, and people around them congratulate Reed on how awesome his son is. Hollis can't even bring herself to care what Quentin must be feeling in that moment. After that, the narration glosses over the rest of Eaton's matches, but then we see another match between Eaton and a knight in the cliché black armor. And oh no, is Eaton going to get hurt, which leads to Hollis nursing him back to health. As the two knights get situated in their start positions, Scarlet asks Hollis if she wants to leave now, but no, Eaton didn't get unseated or even hurt. He won the tourney. Chapter 18. Afterwards, the family settles into the shade of a tree, enjoying the food provided. Scarlet and Hollis talk about how good Eaton was. Hollis is also secretly pleased that everybody saw him take a favor from her. Reed says that it's good Eaton won because it'll settle into everybody's minds that the Northcotts and Eastcotts haven't gone anywhere, and continues on to say that the news of the slaughter has unsettled a lot of people because if Quentin is going to murder his own distant family, there's literally nothing stopping him from murdering random other people next. He continues on to say that they need proof that it was Quentin behind all of this stuff, because if they simply remove him without proof, then it's setting a bad precedent, which sounds awfully democratic of them considering that a literal dictator is going around and murdering people. When Valentina told Hollis about the darkest nights, it seemed less of a scary story to keep children in line and more of one of those worst-kept secret kind of deals. I get what Reed is saying because where he's coming from, but gosh darn it. People are literally being murdered, all because of an overgrown man-child who has never once been told no in his entire life is on the throne. Anyway, Eaton comes over and the others make a big fuss over his arrival. He shows off his prize, which is a feather made from gold. Hollis comments that even if he hadn't won, it would still a joy to watch him. Eaton says that he couldn't have won without her favor and tries to give her the feather. She refuses and they kind of have it back and forth for a little bit before she finally decides that she's not going to get at it with him over a feather. Everybody toasts the two of them. Hollison says that she hopes that their good luck extends to their plans. She tells him that she successfully delivered the note, and after having befriended Valentina back in Carrera, Hollis is certain that Valentina would not misunderstand what Hollis wanted, even from a simple note asking them to meet later. As the family starts to head in, Hollis sees Eaton and asks if he intends to have a bath. He teases her right back, and I guess with the implication that she's not exactly fresh after having sat outside for most of the day. Eaton goes on to tell her that he couldn't say this in front of his dad, but if Hollis needs a distraction to get away tonight, it probably wouldn't take much for him to pick a fight with one of the men he unseated, that a fistfight would be nothing in comparison to getting Valentina on their side. Chapter 19. As Hollis gets ready, she thinks about how Delia used to do her hair like this. She wonders what Delia is doing at that exact moment. Scarlet asks what Hollis is thinking about, and Hollis tells her about the treaty that Jameson and Quentin signed, the one that made Hollis leave because Jameson viewed their children as a commodity to trade away at his convenience. She says that the holy leaders pressured Jameson to leave Hollis's name off of it, and she's grateful for that now, since if she'd been written into the treaty, then she couldn't have never left. Hollis goes on to complain about contracts like that. She says that she knew a girl whose parents betrothed her to a boy when she was 2 years old. The second that the young woman came of age, bam, legally married to that young man. And I sure hope that I don't have to spell out to my viewers in the 21st century why this is bad. She continues on and says that by the time that 16 years had passed and the contract went into effect, both parties wanted out of it. They had to petition before the king to have it nullified in the same way that you would have a divorce. Hollis remembers being at the court that day, watching as the young couple had tears in their eyes and Jameson's dad refused to give them their freedom. In the end, the couple were forced to marry, but are determined to stay as far away from each other as possible. Both of them were the last of their lines and are set on ensuring that both of their lines die with them. The ultimate version of play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Allison gets back around to how she'd been thinking about Delia. Scarlett asks if she thinks that Delia and Jameson will actually get married. Hollis assures her that if anybody can force Jameson to marry, it'll be Delia. Hollis decides that she's going to wear one of her dresses from Guro, and Scarlett gives her a crown to wear too. I'm not sure about court customs and random commoners wearing crowns, but whatever, I'm not sure that I care. Outside, Wheatley is happy that the girls are finally starting to come back to themselves following the tragedy. Hollis looks at Ian and decides that he's quite handsome. Because we're finally setting him up to be her secondary love interest. He says that she looks nice, and she says that he looks nice as well. Chapter 20. People swarm Ian to congratulate him on his win, and since he's escorting Hollis, she's kind of caught in the middle of it all. Ian and Hollis joke about how he never wants to marry, and it's honestly kind of a nice moment. Hollis had anticipated needing to wait a while to speak with Valentina, but she hadn't anticipated Valentina not even being there. Ian worries that Quentin might have found the note, but Hollis is quick to say that it was vague and unsigned. She doubts that even if he had found it, he wouldn't know what to do about it. Ian goes on to say that he hadn't known Valentina was in such a difficult spot. Hollis says that Quentin hides these things, so even if Valentina was literally crying, Quentin would likely have hushed the entire thing up. She goes on to say that Valentina seemed like somebody that was more interested in the end goal of the crown rather than the man under it, even though that's not exactly how Valentina described how she ended up marrying the king. All of this being said, we return to more random girls being flung at Ian. It boils Hollis's blood a little that nobody cared about Ian last night, but she reminds herself not to get angry on Ian's behalf. She starts to think that, despite Ian's protests that he'll never get married or have kids, he likely will, if only to carry on the Northcott family line, that even if they can't take down Quentin, simply giving birth to the next generation of Northcotts will be enough. But Hollis also thinks that he'd have to marry a woman of good isolate breeding, whose line was almost as old as the Northcotts is. As more and more women show up and start to crowd around Ian, Hollis decides to leave. Despite it not being safe for her to simply wander by herself, she does exactly that and goes outside. Ian catches up with her, eager to have literally any excuse to get away from vapid giggling. It seems as though he's a little uncomfortable with the attention. He also says he lost Hollis's handkerchief in the field somewhere, but Hollis assures him that she has others. And then, because we haven't beaten this dead horse enough, Hollis has to go on yet and again about how Silas had saved her from an unfortunate marriage to Jameson. Like, I get it, but at the same time, how many times are we going to say the same thing over and over? This quickly turns into them mourning all of the people that they've lost. I miss them every day. You can miss people and keep living. Sometimes you have to. But then Hollis says she's afraid to go back and cause drama for the people who are barely getting settled after everything that happened when she ran off with Silas. She cites ruining things for Adelia, but I think that Hollis is afraid of being trapped by Jameson, that he wouldn't let her out of her sight until they were permanently bound together. She starts to cry over the prospect of it all, and Ian tries to comfort her. He says that she gets to talk smack about Corora all day long, but the second he does it, she gets angry at him. He says that he doesn't hate her and goes so far as to apologize for putting down her clothes. And then he randomly kisses her, which I... Look, even if I hadn't been forewarned by the reviews about this, I saw their relationship coming from a mile away. But at the same time, I feel like barely any time has passed since Silas's death in the massacre. I'm not saying that Hollis or Ian can't move on. All I'm saying is, dude, his body is barely covered and you're making a move on your cousin's widow? Although, at least this had some build-up to it, unlike the random declaration between Hollis and Silas that came out of nowhere. As Ian pulls away, Hollis notes that he looks baffled, like not even he had anticipated doing that. He tells her that he didn't know how to get her to stop arguing, which, sure, Jan. Hollis stammers out that she has to get back so that she can have that talk with Valentina, and Ian says that he'll follow after a moment. Hollis feels emotionally off balance as she walks away, but knows that she can't tell Ian that. As she goes inside, she hopes that Valentina is there because she can't go back outside right now, but the queen is there, much to Hollis's relief. Thanks for listening to my book Snark on YouTube. New videos are up every Monday, but stick around because I sometimes drop random videos on other days too. Just as a reminder, even if you can't financially support me, there are other ways to help me out. The first is watching this video as well as all my other videos. It's also important to like and subscribe. Finally, you can share this video with all of your friends so that they can help as well. If you're already caught up with all of my videos, you can go to Tumblr for my main book Snarks, always free and updated every morning. And if you've already read all of my main Snarks, then you can find even more Snark on my Patreon. You can access it for $1 a month. Members also get early access to my main Tumblr Snark. Special thanks to Dawn, Phoebe, and Nikki for supporting me on Patreon already. If you want to hear your name in my video next week, you either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Do you like my Snarks so much that you want me to snark your writing? I do that too. For just $6 per chapter, I will tell you how awful that your writing is. But not to worry if you feel like you couldn't take the criticism. I also offer regular book editing as well, just 1 cent per word. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms if you have further questions. If you want to read some of the things that I've written, you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have a slew of erotic short stories and 2 full-length novels. I also frequently run flash sales on my stories, and if you aren't following me on any social media, you might want to do so just so you can know when I might be offering things for free. Links for everything will be posted below. See you next week, guys!